is Marnie Swedberg, and I'm here with Beth Owens right now. She's one of our featured speakers over at womenspeakers.com. Welcome to you, Beth.
Thank you, Marnie. It is great to talk with you again.
Well, it is fun to chat with you, and I know, you've been with womenspeakers.com for a long time, and we've maybe gotten to talk a couple times over the years, but that's it. And I just watch your ministry from behind the computer screen here and just think, go God, go Beth.
I say the same thing when I watch it from behind my computer. So
That's right. Well, one of the things that I wanted you to share with us is about your references, because you kind of are on the top end of people who have references posted at womenspeakers.com. And there's really no requirement for that, but I know that it helps planners. They tell me it helps them. It helps them feel more confident. And scripturally, it says, let another man praise you and not your own lips. And this is kind of what those references are about. So you have 15 references showing. And what's kind of your secret to getting those?
Well, I think there's many things that lead up to that reference. I think initially being really flexible, communicating really well with the people who contact you and making sure that you are meeting their needs. And in doing so, leading up to any kind of event, whether it's a weekend retreat, an overnight, just a one-day thing, one thing I do is pray specifically for the women. And I think most of us women do that. Right. And make sure that I am taking the words that God would have them hear, not from me, but from Him. And so I try to make their experience very personal and really hit those things that are important to that particular group of people. I think what might seal the deal, at least I think it does, at the end of a message, I will ask the women, is there anyone who is not here that you think would need to hear this message that God has brought for me to share today? And almost always there are heads nodding. Yes, I know someone who needs to hear this message. And so then I kind of invite them to actually join in my ministry and give them the opportunity to actually belong and to participate and say, the best way for me to share this message with women who have not heard it is for you to, leave a reference or some type of recommendation about what this message did for you or what you took from this message. And then when others are looking for, a message to be given, that will help them and that will help me to get this message to more people. So I really invite them to actually invest in, furthering God's kingdom and spreading His word even further, and that, I need their help to make that happen. I can't do that on my own, and word of mouth is the best promoter, and women do seem to respond to that personal invitation to help. I do also try to make it really easy for them. I always have a packet of materials. I have a mailing label that's specific with the instructions to go to the website, click here, click there, leave your recommendation. And so I try to take the work out of it for them. So after the retreat or the event, they're not saying, now, what was that website called and what were the steps I needed to do? Because at that point, they're probably not going to do it. So I do try to make it really easy for them as well.
Just for clarification, you said you have like a return address. Is that like a business card, or what do you do? What is that?
Well, I just use a mailing label, just something that you would normally put on an envelope, but I use it to put on my, packet that I hand out to women,
Sure.
As they're arriving at the event. And on that specific mailing envelope, I have the womenspeakers.com website, and then, the click here to leave a reference type thing, and so that they can follow that step by step. So I make it stand out from my materials a little bit so that it doesn't get lost with all of the other stuff. And I do draw attention to it. Over the course of a weekend retreat, I will draw attention to it 2 or 3 times. And again, invite the women into the process to, participate in helping me share God's message.
I love how you phrased that and how you've actually incorporated this invitation for them to partner with you further directly into their ability to help get the word out about what you do. Word of mouth is number one. It always is going to be. We want to bring somebody that we already know and love and trust.
Exactly.
in womenspeakers.com, this is where, the planners come here who have been using us for years, of course, but then the planners also come who just ran out of word of mouth. I mean, they don't have anybody. They're like, I don't know. I'm out of friends. I'm out of people I know.
Right.
And so they find us, and then they find speakers like you, and they want to just keep getting speakers from womenspeakers.com after they've had a good experience, which is awesome. Now, Beth, one of things that, I like to address this because a lot of speakers have told me, well, I don't want to use the medallion on my website, or I don't want to share about womenspeakers.com because, then they go there and there's like 1,000 women to pick from. Maybe they won't choose me. What do you think about that?
Oh, boy. I'd have to say for me the opposite is true. I've had the bulk of my leads from womenspeakers.com. Now, I have had a few people contact me personally through my website. But funny enough, when they contact me through my website, they'll say, we saw you on womenspeakers.com, but for some reason didn't necessarily follow the steps there for the contact. Now, every now and then I do direct them back and say, please go back through Women Speakers, and just because it works for me. But I have had very few leads come from anywhere but womenspeakers.com, even with a full web page, even though I have a ministry, I have my website attached to a Facebook page, and I've never really thought about that. I don't think that it's taking away from my opportunities, to be honest with you. And the truth is, and this is actually down a little further in some questions, but the truth is, not every one of us is meant to take every opportunity that comes our way. They're divine appointments. Right. And if I'm the only option that a person comes across, and that appointment wasn't meant for me, we haven't done ourselves any favors. And so I actually enjoy sharing that limelight with 1,099 other women, because I can't do it all on my own. So. Right.
Yeah, of course. And I think, what I've observed over the years is that the speakers who get the most bookings at womenspeakers.com typically are those who are generously sharing information about womenspeakers.com. And that's just kind of, I always say God loves body life, and that he really loves it when we work together and we don't try to hoard it all. Don't try to, keep it all in a corner or whatever. I love your response to that. Very beautiful.
I have actually recommended many other of the women on the site that I have met personally, either if I couldn't attend a specific event, or if they had me for an event but they wanted someone new for the following year or for their following get-together. There's a handful of women that I readily have available, and I say these 5 or 6 women, they are absolutely amazing and awesome. So that actually, that has worked well, not only for myself, but obviously for groups of women who are still seeking. So I hope that other women are doing the same thing.
I know a lot of gals really are. I would say the majority of gals really are. But I know that I hear that every once in a while, and it hurts my heart a little bit. It's like, don't be afraid, be bold, be brave. And I don't hear it about the speaker side. I hear it about like a book. Someone's working on a book that God's flowing through them, and they don't want to tell anybody anything about it. They're hiding it under a bushel until it's all done, because somebody might steal their idea.
Yes.
And I always go back to, there's a verse that says that God doesn't do anything without telling his prophets, plural, about it in advance. And the year that at Bible Study Expo, I had 2 authors who'd written books by the exact same title, completely different books, but God's heart was heavy on that one topic, and he flowed 2 books through different authors, 4 women's Bible study groups with the exact same title. So awesome. I'm always of the thought process, just run with it. It's what God gave you, and just invite as many people to run with you. I love how you invite people in. That's so beautiful. Now, you have 8 posted topics at your Women Speakers profile page. Do you have like a most requested one, or is it all over the board?
Well, it's funny because it seems to kind of go through seasons. For about a year, the topic of joy was very, very highly requested. And of course, sort of different subtitles, if you will, of the topic of joy. Now, I do have that as one of my topics on the website, and I think I list 2 or 3 that go with that. But in reality, because I have taken that topic, and when women call, they have a specific detail that they want incorporated. And so I kind of have different versions of those 3 sessions that go along with joy. Most recently, at the beginning of this year, I wrote a topic called Becoming to Christ. And I kind of took it as a spinoff of, there's a lot of messages out there about becoming more like Christ and the things that we need to do in our daily Christian walk to continue to be like him and to imitate him. And all of those things are wonderful things. I am all about those things. But I took a spin on this based on God's, pressing on my heart that women, we as daughters of the King, are already becoming to him, as in adored by him. Because of who we are, because he lives in us, we are already a plethora of things because we belong to him. Right. And yes, we need to become more like him, and we need to serve, and we need to love, but we are already, these treasures to him. And once I wrote that and offered it at just a one-day retreat earlier this year, the response from the women that day was so profound that I knew I shouldn't even say I was onto something, because it wasn't me. It was what God laid on my heart. I have given that now probably 5 or 6 times this year. I am giving it at 2 of the upcoming 3 events that I have coming up this fall. Women need to be reminded who they are instead of hearing that they're not enough and they need to do this more and they lack over here. We already who we are because of who he is in us, and that seems to be that's what's in season right now. I have a feeling it's going to hang in there for a little bit. So beautiful. All right, I'm going to move on to a subject that I get a lot of questions about in emails. How do you handle the money part of things? Well, I'm not sure how anybody else handles the money part of things. And initially when I first started speaking, this was a difficult place for me. But I think I came to a place that works well. What I do first and foremost is I make it very clear that I work within whatever the budget is for the group of women that are getting together. Because the truth is God knows what they have to give and God knows what I need. So once that's on the table and I say, I can work with your budget, I do still provide sort of an average hourly speaker fee as a place to start. But then I work with the team. We come up with an agreement that works and is fair for everybody involved. The truth is I have spoke 100% for free. I have been paid above and beyond the average speaker hourly rate. I have accepted love offerings that don't even cover the gas that it took me to go to the destination. But God has covered me, and he has taken care of me, and he has said, this is my ministry, and I will take care of you. So my best advice is always, always be willing to work within a budget. Of course, not to the degree that you are getting taken advantage of, but to have a starting place and be willing to be flexible in either direction. And of course, most importantly, be obedient to what God wants you to do, even if that means you're spending your gas money to get there. Right. Oh, that's beautiful. And, one of the things I just want to throw in here, too, is everybody's in a different situation, and God has such different callings for everybody. You need to just pray this through with Jesus, but I love how you're approaching this, and thank you for sharing that with us, because it is a question that I get a lot, and I can answer it from, the best advice that I can give, but it's always good to hear from other people, too, what they're doing. Right. So one of the questions I have for you, Beth, is, are you involved in social media? And if so, what does a day look like for you online? Well, my social media isn't a whole lot. It's not too businessy, if you know what I mean. If I'm on there, I'm kind of wasting some time, being nosy, seeing what people are up to. Now I am on, to some degree every day. I kind of pop in, pop out, not necessarily for lengthy periods of time. So it's fairly minimal for me. when I do spend time in that way, oftentimes I'm tweaking my, ministry Facebook page or my website or changing a little something on the womenspeakers.com site to add a session or a topic or something along those lines. I'm not involved with too many apps, I think is what they call them now. Outside of Facebook, I'm not really involved with, Twitter or Instagram or anything along those lines. So it's fairly minimal, and it's just not necessarily related to, anything specific with ministry. It's almost more of a, almost like a little mind break from if I'm writing or working, and it just kind of gives me a few minutes to not really think about anything too intense for a few moments. But that's really about it.
That's great. And what I wanted to share with you guys that are listening is the Bath, it's all over the board. I mean, some women speakers, they are on social media a lot and really working it like an advertising avenue. Whereas, like for you, that's just not your thing. And I think the most important thing, and we just said this about money, and of course it's true about everything in our life, just need to be walking with Jesus. What do you want me to do about this? And then just go with that. But I love that you shared that. Thank you so much. And now, do you have a couple organizing tips for maybe some gals who are newer to speaking?
Yeah, this was actually the part that I was really hoping we would have time for, just because there are things that I have learned over the past few years being involved with women speakers, and probably would have saved myself a little bit of time, if I had thought about these things ahead of time. And you actually stole one of the words already, and that is to be organized. And that really is quite simple for me. I'm very paper. I'm still paper product generation. And even though I do, of course, all of my writing and things like that on a laptop, being organized, I use a 3-ring binder. I have ready-made templates for taking down information when I get an email or a phone call to speak somewhere. I have a series of steps on a checklist that once I do accept a lead or accept accept the role of speaking somewhere, that I know I need to take to get everything done before that event should come. I set a little bit of time aside each week, an hour on Tuesday to dedicate to making sure that I am, investing in that way and continuing to stay on top of the organization. So being organized is very, very important for me. I cannot function in chaos. It does not work for me at all.
Well, and Beth, let me just interrupt you too, because you guys don't know that Beth works as a teacher. So all of these, like our retreats coming up and stuff, you're fitting this around a full work week in the system. So, I mean, you have to be organized.
I do. I mean, I teach in New York State, and they start school this year. I believe it's September 4th, and then I have a weekend retreat on the 7th. So I'm preparing for back to school and 4 speaking sessions all at the same time. I do not have a choice but to be organized. So, and tip number 2 is I kind of touched on this just a little bit, but that is to be flexible with your speaking. But being flexible also, I don't think we should feel obligated to write an entire weekend's worth of new material if we have, and we do, we have stuff that is just already really fantastic. When I receive a request, I most recently started to do this. I ask, one of the first questions that I ask is this: is your goal to have your event, a little more lighthearted and uplifting, or are we digging deeper and doing some soul searching? Now, of course, sometimes they want a combination of the two, but whatever their response is, I can say, I have these topics that fall under the lighthearted and uplifting category, or I have these topics that fall under the dig deeper and soul searching category. And then that brings them into a place of where I have already written, some messages and things to share with them. However, I do tweak and I do fine tune to make sure that each of those messages is personal to the women who are going to hear it. But I can start at kind of a basic outline sort of place that I already have, and then work from there. And so far, so good. That has worked really well. So
No, and that's great. And when you said it, it was kind of interesting because the first thought that came into my mind was, well, that'd be like God rewriting the Bible every time somebody asked a question.
Yes.
So I mean, God has already gifted you with a lot of material, and definitely that He intends for you to use it and reuse it. Not necessarily exactly the same every time. I love the focus on the repurposing it for this group. Yeah. Okay. So what is the third tip you had?
Third, best for last, and you've already said it. I touched on it as well, and that is pray, 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 pray. It's so easy when you get a request to call back, say yes, you're locked in, it's exciting, the adrenaline is pumping, but not every assignment is meant for you. And I have learned that the hard way a couple of times, that I kind of pushed, through something that I realized later was probably meant for someone else. Accepting a lead unless you know absolutely for sure that it is for you. Because in doing that, it's a disservice to yourself, it's a disservice to the women that you're speaking to, and it's a disservice to whoever the person is that was supposed to be there to share whatever message they were going to bring. So pray, 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 and let God say, yes, this is yours. No, it's not. And then don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, I can't do that. It's either not good timing or it's not a good fit. But prayer is absolutely the most important key of all.
I was just talking yesterday with another one of the speakers, and I said we were sharing an event that both of us have spoken on, and I said it's just the critical difference when not only you as the speaker are praying for the event, but when they have a prayer team going on their end too, and the whole event has been just saturated in prayer. I mean, we were just saying it makes all of the difference. An event without prayer is just a sad reflection or image of what it could have been had it been bathed in prayer. So I love that you saved the best for last.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are almost out of time. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we're done here?
Marnie, I'm going to share one thing really quick because we didn't quite get to it, and I just think, you had asked a question about what was the favorite part of womenspeakers.com, and I really want to share this. I believe as women, we all want and love to belong to something. We love to be a part of something bigger and greater than ourselves, and that is exactly what Women Speakers is. And, I'm a part of a group of women who we're all striving to obey God's call and to serve Him through our gift of speaking, and the community that loves Jesus, that supports one another, that encourages one another. And, I had mentioned that I have met about a dozen other speakers that are also part of womenspeakers.com, and we have worshiped together. We've shared the stage together, and we share a heart and a passion to share Jesus with as many people as possible. And it is amazing, absolutely an honor and a blessing to be involved with that kind of community. And Marnie, I'm just going to say thank you for making that possible. You have made that possible for a lot of women, and that's just really cool.
Well, that is so great, and I love to hear this because, a lot of times, and as you can imagine, I just sit behind the screen and connect leads with speakers and, the emails, that kind of stuff. So it is so fun to hear what God's doing that I don't get to see, the parts that I don't see. So that is so cool. Well, I am a fan, my dear. I watch you from afar and just go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, and thank you for being here.